R.C. Sproul says this: a lack of concern to build the temple showed that the people of God had a deeper lack of desire for God's presence. Remember, in the Old Covenant, the temple was the representative of the presence of God on earth. And so for the people of God to really not care if the temple was built was so much to say this: we don't really care if God's presence is among us. We'd rather have a nice house to go home to after we get home from work. Let's panel that house. Let's put a nice roof on that house. Let's have a nice couch in that house while the house of God is in disarray. It's roughly equivalent to this: people who are made in the image of God, who is light, clothing themselves in darkness. Unbelievers who are made in the image of God, the God who is generous and good, pursuing thievery and hatred. People made in the image of God rejecting that image. It's also even worse, sort of like when believers who are made in the image of God and who are being remade into the image of Christ and indwelt by the Spirit, yet defiling themselves with sin. Believers in the new covenant who are the temple of God's Spirit following after their own flesh. God gives the privilege of His presence, of His image, of His likeness, and yet how often are people rejecting it? I don't want to be made in God's image. I want to refashion myself. Or believers, well, I know I'm the temple of the Holy Spirit, but a little sin won't do too much harm. No, that's a lie.